Okay, so I'm just gonna go right on the topic here since my background or way of living doesn't matter in this case. As you all know, there's been quite a few accounts of people's encounters on the deep web on this sub lately. I usually read all of them because it intrigues and scares me, and maybe that's why I ended up dreaming about it a few days ago. Perhaps what I saw isn't grounded in reality, but since I've never dreamt about such things before, I figured I'll ask you for your 2 cents. So let's get to it. I can't recall the fine details of most of this dream, but I do remember the basics. In the dream, I'd gotten my hands on a Tor browser because obviously, I was able to go onto the deep web. One weird thing was that the browser wasn't just a program I downloaded to my computer, but it was inside of some sort of fancy router, modem thing that I could just plug into my computer whenever I felt like using it. I remember something about having to stay hidden from the police or just some form of authority. Anyway, let's not derail too much here. It's possible I watched more than just one murder video in the dream, but I can only remember one, so here it goes. The video was filmed by what I assumed to be a man and a woman, judging from their voices, who had kidnapped 2 young women and held them bound in a dark room. The victims were lying down on their sides and I really wasn't able to see the surroundings in the room. The camera lights only hit the 2 victims. I remember how I thought it was remarkable how stoic these women acted towards their kidnappers, despite being in such a situation, and I felt some sort of hope. At that thought, a notion that, whatever these kidnappers did to them, they wouldn't go down so easily. Even if the video was disturbing so far, I didn't actually feel like the kidnappers had anything on these women. I felt like they would be okay despite everything. I don't remember much of the torture either, but I remember the 2 women begging their kidnappers to stop doing this to them and let them go, to which the kidnappers just kept going, snickering unmercifully. The thing that stuck with me the most is when one of the kidnappers put a nail to the thigh of one of the women, the one who they filmed the most, and also one of them to fight back the most, retrieved a hammer and slammed the nail right into the poor woman's thigh. I cringed at this but somehow couldn't stop watching. Amazingly, the woman still spat out insults at the kidnappers, even though she was clearly in pain. The kidnappers did this a few more times. They probably did other things too, before I finally decided to stop watching the video and go look for something else instead. Watching that had really brought me into some sense of guilt, that I, as an unsuspecting viewer, had somehow let this happen, let these women be tortured by some sickos, and when I woke up from the dream, it has stuck with me until this moment. The reason I came here to you, no sleep, is because I felt there's something I should ask those of you who've actually been on the deep or shadow web. Do you recall ever actually seeing a video like the one I've just described? It's probably stupid of me, but I can't help but wonder where this dream even came from, since I've never dreamt about such things before, that I can remember, and if there might be some truth to it. Always enter the deep web at your own risk. There is always something that can get the jump on you. For example, I was browsing the deep web late at night when I came across this post for storytellers and heavy creepypasta readers. I like reading, so in my own curiosity, I ventured forth into what seemed to be something I would rather enjoy. I was wrong. Dead wrong. The website contained a few boxes with descriptions in each and a list of stories written by others. The boxes had basic information regarding that the stories are for entertainment purposes only and that they should be regarded as fiction. I scrolled through to find an intriguing title. When I found one called The Note, I began reading the creepypasta and it didn't seem half bad. It began reading things like, there was a nightgown in the middle of the road and I heard creaking. I found this especially strange because I had these same experiences in the same week. I thought nothing of it and kept reading. I began to feel uncomfortable as every event that happened in the story was basically ticking off the past 5 days of my life. It got to a point where it was talking about the day I was in. But what really got my attention was the line, I could see something outside, and at that moment, I heard branches cracking outside. I jolted my head to my window and quickly closed my curtains. I'm just paranoid, I kept telling myself. It's okay. I read further and the character in the story did the same thing. It's as if someone was replacing text as this was all happening. I read on, more sounds came from outside until I heard knocking on my door. My eyes widened as I could see what was coming next. The loud knocks came for a few seconds, then stopped. At this point, I could care less about the website, so I turned off my computer and turned out the lights as I slid under my bed with my trusty baseball bat ready. I waited for what seemed like hours, but nothing came. Eventually, I drifted off to sleep as I had a long day and was extremely tired. As I slowly came to, I saw my room was dimly lit from the little sunlight coming through the seam of the curtains. I crawled out from under feeling awful and having very little memory of the night before. I went to make my cup of coffee and noticed nothing was out of place to where it normally is. I just had a nightmare, I thought to myself. I came back to my desk as I turned on the machine, to find a boot-up message from what looked like a piece of paper. It had much a resemblance for that of a note to self, and there was a great deal of text, so I began reading it cautiously, wondering, if this is important, why not put this in a command prompt? I read through it, but shortly after beginning, I noticed it was trying to tell me something. Remember, fight back. Don't let it take you too. Then it hit me. I began to remember what had happened. I quickly opened my curtains and made a thorough scan of my garden and front porch. There wasn't a soul in sight, so I continued reading, and it started to take shape of the creepypasta I had read the night before. I could recall every bit of text. But I saw a line of text that horrified me. Something I will never quite forget. It read, as my door slowly opened, a tall and slender figure entered my room, scanning it rapidly. He had what appeared to be a large butcher knife in its hand. I could not make out the figure, or what gender it was, but I knew one thing, if I move or make any sound, I am dead. I could only imagine what happened after, as I ripped out the power cord and threw the cinder block outside. I ran through the entire house to make sure everything was locked tight. Not 5 minutes had passed and I put my shoes on to go destroy that devil of a machine. I ran outside right where I threw it to find nothing. It wasn't there. I was shocked. Caught up in the moment, I ran inside and called the police. They arrived and didn't find a single trace of anyone getting in. I told them how in just a few minutes in broad daylight someone or something managed to grab my computer and take off with it, or worse. Once they left, I went to buy a new laptop and a firearm. I haven't seen anything suspicious or heard anything, but I can never forget what happened that night. To think someone could be outside my window staring at me intently. I haven't visited that godforsaken place since, and never will. July 1st, 2018. A face is staring into the camera. Sandy hair, mid-20s, male, somewhat reminiscent of a squirrel in his rabid mannerisms. The big day is finally here. This is our first time testing out our new spider bot on the dark web, and we're both pretty excited. We've only got a week left to iron out the bugs before Kevin has to defend his thesis, but I don't anticipate any problems. Kevin is nervous as hell, but the kid is an absolute genius. He's still configuring his Tor network and VPN, so I'm going to catch everyone up who are just joining the stream now. Typical web crawlers haven't been able to explore the dark web because they can't index specific inputs like forms or authentication passphrases. I'm mostly here for moral support and don't understand it completely, but Kevin's spider-bot has machine learning algorithms which have been training the last few weeks to learn a new adaptive method of keyword selection. You hear the derisive snort at my oversimplification? Yeah, that's Kevin. Say hello, Kevin. The streamer looks off camera. Off camera voice, shut up, Brian. Whatever, fuck you too, man. Based on the training results, we should be able to index a couple thousand pages a day. Google only reaches 16% of all available websites, so that means it's going to take us approximately forever to get through it all with our current computing power. This is just a proof of concept though. All we're using at the moment is Kevin's old laptop that his dog Crinkle's practically smashed. The power cord was stretched across the room and this little bulldog comes barreling right through. Indistinct grunt off camera. Hold on, it looks like we're good to go. If all goes well, then in a couple of months you're going to start reading about how the dark web ceased to exist because of our little spider. I'm going to end the stream now to let it get started, but join us again tomorrow to explore all the cool stuff we found. July 3rd, 2018. The sandy-haired man is back. There are bags under his eyes, but he's as enthusiastic as ever. Hey guys, it's me again. Sorry for the delay, but we hit an unexpected bump. Spider was doing great and had already logged a few hundred sites when it abruptly stopped with this weird error. It keeps telling us that it has already indexed everything. Kevin is able to manually direct it to keep finding new sites, but as soon as it's automated it just says it's finished again. Kevin is practically ripping his hair out, but it's not like this has been a complete waste of time. We did discover a brand new, never before seen color that I'm pretty sure didn't used to exist. All Kevin had to do was put on a white t-shirt a week ago, then eat nothing but barbecue chicken wings and sweat out the sauce. The camera starts to pan to the left. An unseen hand shoves it back into place. Anyway, Brian rambles, it looks like we might still be a while, so. Off-camera voice, got it. I don't understand it, but I've got it. Well, whip me red and call me applesauce, because it looks like we're back in business. Off-camera voice, what? That's not a saying. Nobody says that. Kevin, you have got to get out more. People are saying that like all the time. So what was the hold up? Off-camera voice, it's all linked. Look at this, a drug marketplace, an anime forum, a counterfeit producer, some dungeon porn. You have my attention. Off-camera voice, it's all referencing the same destination. Spider stops indexing because it thinks the whole dark web is this one site. I'm going to try to get in. That relates to a joke I know. So a drug lord, a web, a conman, and a porn star all walk into a bar. Off-camera voice, this isn't a real joke. Just shut up, I'm trying to concentrate. And the barman says, what are you guys doing together? So the drug lord says. Off-camera voice, they've all got something to hide. Even the porn star? Off-camera voice, it's got to be a blackmail thing. These guys must be tunneling into other websites to get info or hold them ransom, but there's no way they can be everywhere. Every single site Spider finds. Shit. Shit motherfucking bitch sticks. Oh, like that's a real saying? Off-camera voice, they're on my computer. I have no idea how they traced Spider back, but the mouse is moving on its own. It's typing an address into Tor. What are you doing? Off-camera voice, popping out the battery. The power button isn't working. No, don't. The streamer dives off camera. Bumping noises. Off-camera voice, dude, give that back. The streamer returns in front of the camera holding a battered old laptop. Nah man, this is what the people are here to see. Let's find out where these hackers are trying to take us. I swear to God, Brian. An overweight torpedo wearing a blotchy shirt of unclassifiable color hurtles across the screen. The streamer's chair tips over and both men go down. The laptop is left in front of the camera where a long line of seemingly random letters and symbols are typing themselves into the address bar of a Tor browser. Indistinct muffled swearing. The website loads. A countdown timer starting 15 minutes begins to tick down. Kevin and Brian stick their heads up over the desk in unison to stare at it. At least shut that damn camera off, Kevin says. Only if you'll let it count down so we can see what happens, Brian replies, swatting away Kevin's hand which stretches for the laptop. God, you're such an asshole. Whatever, fine, just shut it off. The sandy man begins to wave, but the screen cuts off halfway through. When the stream turns, the timer reads 15 seconds. The angle is weird, as if the camera is in his lap hidden beneath the desk. The looming Brian is pacing and muttering to himself in the corner of the screen. Kevin surreptitiously leans over the camera and gives a thumbs up, mouthing the letters OMG. The timer hits 0 and stays there. A dog starts barking somewhere in the distance. Are you happy now? Kevin grunts. Give it back, okay? There's a knock on the door. A single knock, loud and deliberate. The barking intensifies, snarling, growling, all hell breaking loose in its little world. Not really, Kevin whispers. A second knock. Then a third, each about 3 seconds apart. You get it. Both men say at nearly the same instant. They stare at each other until the next knock. This is your fault. Kevin wheezes in a voice halfway between a whisper and a shout. Yeah, he replies. He approaches the door, the camera angle still at waist height. Then in a louder voice, who is it? Are you still recording? Kevin hisses. Unbelievable. The screen is filled by the door as Kevin gets closer. He's right up against it, so he's probably looking through the peek hole. Crash. A sound loud enough to max out the speaker volume. The door explodes inward in a wave of splinters. The screen shakes erratically, and there's nothing but splinters and lances of light and screaming. A gray-skinned hand streaks across the camera. If you freeze the frame, you'll notice that the skin looks more like coarse cloth and that there is stitching running up and down the fingers. The stream cuts off. July 10th, the streamer is back. His face seems paler. His skin is breaking out and his hair hangs in greasy strings around his face. He's sitting at a bare table in a concrete room. The lights are dim, but there's a large man standing in the back of his room. His hands are folded motionlessly in front of him. Yeah? Hi guys. This might be my last broadcast for a while. He glances back at the figure in the corner, but there's no movement. Back to the camera, Kevin's okay. I mean, he's different, but he's okay. He glances back to the corner of the room, but the figure still hasn't budged. Brian's shadow shifts with his movement, and for a moment the stitched cloth skin of the person in the corner is visible running all the way up his arm. I guess they had something like Spider. They were only tunneling into websites on the dark web anyway. I guess that kind of people could disappear without as many questions being asked. They wanted my followers to know though. Brian swallows. He looks behind again. Then a sudden burst of movement, grabbing the camera and dragging it up to his face. Close your browser now. Shut off your computer. The figure in the back has started to move. Great, lumbering steps, charging forward. Brian's words are a breathy rush. It only takes 15 minutes for them to find you once they've established a connection. The cloth's hands seize Brian from behind and drag him off camera. "Don't do this, Kevin," he shouts. "How long has your browser been open already? Just shut the damn thing off." There's a heavy thud. A heavy-set face appears in front of the camera for a moment. The human eyes look strange embedded within the cloth. Stitches run down either side of the face along the jawline. The cloth might just be sewed to the skin, but it fits so closely to the anatomy of Kevin's face that it looks more like the cloth has replaced it.